I never thought playing and watching video games would teach me so much about life. The amount of attempts and effort and dedication and commitment it takes to beat a certain video game is something that you can apply to your own life in a way that you may not have thought of. What got me thinking about this was watching speedruns of video games. I love watching Super Mario 64 speedruns. That's definitely my favorite. Pokemon speedruns. I like watching speedruns of modern games like Elden Ring, Zelda, Summer Games Done Quick. I love watching SGDQ and just watching the titans of these particular games come together and try to beat each other, right? And try, battling it out. And watching these speedrunners who have chosen their art form, who have chosen their craft and have become masters at it, right? They are truly masters of their craft with the amount of time, effort, and energy that they put in to try to beat the world record, to try to beat every other person on the face of this planet, to be able to say that there is nobody who has done it faster than I could. To be able to dedicate your time and your effort and your energy and to have the conviction to go for something like that, it's something that's truly admirable. It's something that really got me thinking on the dedication that it takes and the commitment that it takes and the perseverance that it takes to become the best in the world at something, to break these world records. So I learned two things, and the second one was actually fairly life-changing for me. The first one that I learned was the power of conviction, right? This unwavering belief that you could do better, right? There's the famous story of the 4-minute mile, right? In the 4-minute mile, there was a man named Roger Bannister, and at the time, he was told that there is no man that can run a mile faster than 4 minutes. That the human body was not capable of running a mile faster than 4 minutes. Lo and behold, sometime after he was told that, Roger Bannister ran a mile in under 4 minutes. What was so interesting was up to that point, nobody had even attempted it because they had already accepted this belief barrier to be true. Well, the experts say it's not possible, so why even try? But he decided to try despite the experts' opinion, and guess what? He broke the belief barrier. He broke what others thought was impossible. But here's the most interesting part, is after Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, dozens of other people then did it after him, right? Tons of other people flooded in after he broke it because they saw him that, well, if he can break it, then so can I. He didn't allow other people's convictions. He didn't allow other people's belief barriers to be his own. And he decided to go out and shatter it. And then everyone else followed. That was something that was so interesting. And the reason this is relevant is because I noticed that with speedrunning, is that there was oftentimes in some of these video games, whether it's Super Mario 64, whether it was Tetris, whether it was Pokemon, that they got a time that was so low, that was so impressive, that most thought there's no way that this world record time could get any lower than it is right now. Whether it was 2 hours for a level, or maybe it was a half hour, maybe it was 30 seconds, whatever it was. If it was a specific level for the whole game, there's no way it can get any lower than it was. Then sometimes months, sometimes years go by, and somebody else breaks it. And then when somebody else breaks that world record for that video game, what's so interesting is that in the next 6 months or so, there's usually a handful of people, if not more, who get the time even lower because they were waiting for their Roger Bannister, right, to break that barrier to see if it was possible. And so I'm saying you don't need to wait for one person to break that barrier to see if it's possible. You could be the person to break that barrier. Now, it's great to have references. It's great to be able to see other people in your position do incredible things and use that, right, as experience and use that to motivate you, right? But you don't always need it. You could be the person to not only do what they're doing, but you can do what they're doing and you can do it even better than they're doing it. There could be some barrier that is set, that your mind is convincing you that you cannot cross, that it cannot be done. You cannot get better. You cannot move forward. You cannot achieve this goal, right? Don't allow those thoughts, whether it's coming from yourself or from other people, to dictate whether or not you try, to dictate whether or not you make the attempt to do it. The dedication that it takes to master this, the dedication that it takes to tweak and hone your craft so much to the most minuscule detail, right? Because all of these seconds in speedrunning video games add up. That if you shave 1.5 seconds off one level, and then 0.5 seconds off another, and then 1.5 seconds off another, it all adds up. It all adds up in the end. And then the smallest movements make such the biggest difference. The smallest micro movements in these video games make so much of a difference. And I found that so impressive. The smallest little corner, the smallest move on the joystick, the smallest move, right, made such a big difference in saving time. And that if you went 0.4 degrees to the left, but you were supposed to go 0.4 degrees to the right, that can shift the entire timing of your run. And what it takes, the detail and the pressure that it takes, the detail and the ability to withstand the pressure to be able to achieve breaking these world records, I thought was incredible, because there's so much dedication, there's so much attention to detail to be able to break these world records, and how we can apply that same attention to detail in our own life. The second thing that I learned, and this, as I said, it was a little life-changing for me, because I really understood, at least more now than I have in the past, what it means to persevere. What it means to have perseverance. For me, what it means to have perseverance is to be able to try again and again and again, hundreds if not thousands of times, to be able to try again, even if you're on your 10th, 1000th attempt, as though it was the first attempt. That is my definition of great perseverance. And that is what is going on in these players, is that these players were playing again and again and again, thousands and thousands and thousands of times, going from failure to failure to failure to failure until they eventually got what they wanted, right? It's famously heard that Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb until his 1,200th attempt. Can you imagine trying something so much that you're in the thousands, right? Most people will give up after 30 or 40 tries, right? 30 or 40 tries, let alone 1,000. Imagine trying something 1,000 times. Imagine trying something for years and it never works, but you stick with it. And then you keep going and you keep going and you keep going as though it was the first attempt, and then you achieve what you set out to achieve. And then he eventually invents the light bulb, or that person eventually breaks the world record, right? To go from failure to failure to failure and try again as though it was the first time, I think that is the definition of great perseverance. And that's what I was seeing in these players, and especially when I was watching these documentaries, is that they were trying again and again and again. And what was so impressive was not only were they trying again and again, but they were trying again from the beginning. Is that so often in the video games, they got so close to beating the world record. They got so close to their goal, only to have the rug pulled out from under them, only for them to make such a small mistake. They went to a little bit more to the left than they should have been to the right, right? And they were so close. They were this far off from their goal, and then they have to start all the way back from the beginning. And they just hit the start button and start again. And I'm sitting there, I'm watching this, I'm like, imagine if you were applying that in your own life, right? Imagine getting so close to what you want to then having to start all the way from the beginning. And I know that has happened to you in your life. It has happened to me in my life. But that's where the virtue of perseverance comes in, is then to be able to just try again, is to be able to try again and again. And you see the attempt counters. They're on their 6,000th run. They're on their 7,000th run. For most people, they would just see, oh, they're just playing video games. They're spending so much time. They're just trying to get good at video games. They're sitting hours in their basement. What they're doing is they're actively practicing the human virtue of perseverance right before your eyes if you look deep enough. How many of us can say that we have tried thousands of times at something, right? How many of us can say that we have tried 10,000 times? Very little. like thousands. Really think about it. If you were to really sit and think, how many times have I attempted to achieve this goal? I've attempted to change. Have I attempted to move forward? And it hasn't worked. If you think about it, you're probably in the hundreds, right? Maybe you're not even in the hundreds. Maybe you're only 50 or 60 times. But imagine going to the thousands. Now, I understand the consequences of real life trying again are different than the video games, but that's not the point that I'm trying to make here. The point that I'm trying to make is the ability to try again even when you failed thousands of times. You're not starting from scratch. A lot of the times too, I know that like in video games or in life, it feels like you're starting again, but you're not starting again. You're starting from experience, and there's a big difference, right? You are the accumulation of the thousands of other attempts that you have made. So you can never start from scratch because you can't go back in time. You're always going to start from experience, and that, my friends, makes all the difference in the world. So keep trying again and again, whether it's video games, starting a business, trying to improve your life, break an addiction, break out of whatever it is that's trying to hold you back, something you're trying to achieve, being a better person, living a different way of living, right? To continue to try again and again, attempt after attempt, because at some point you will succeed. You may be 1 or 2 attempts away from getting what you want, right? To bring that all together, you may be 1 or 2 attempts away from you want. You may be on the 1,155th try, and you are about to give up, but on the 1,156th attempt, is when you get what you're looking for, is when you break the world record. It is as you move into a better life. You achieve what you're looking for. You literally quite may be 1 or 2 attempts away. So don't give up early, even if it's taking way longer than you thought it was. If this is something that encouraged you and you liked stuff like this, hit that subscribe button. That's what this channel is about. I post easy to follow, pragmatic videos that I get from virtues that I get from video games, from TV shows, from books, from conversations, and I share them with you and myself so we can both use them to make better decisions. And it was just something that really helped inspire me. So God bless, my friends. Keep picking up whatever you need to pick up and move forward. All right, real quick, for all my 90s babies out there, this is how I wrap my controller, right? I'm the backpack method. I know that there's some people that do the X, completely acceptable, but if you do the diagonal, in my opinion, you're psychotic. Also, if you put your milk in the bowl before you put your cereal in, you're not allowed to step foot in my house.